tonight I had a lot of fun. I spent about 45 minutes painting this steampunk dragon that I invented. If you've been following my YouTube channel, you know that yesterday I created this steampunk dragon after drawing an exploded view of it and then putting the pieces together and animating this cute little video of the dragon chasing a little person. So tonight I decided I would take that original drawing, print it out, and use it as inspiration to give my steampunk dragon a much more dimensional look. So here I am just drawing it out, basically from imagination. I'm looking at the side view and sort of imagining it from the 3/4 view. And one of the things that helps my dragon to look more three-dimensional is I'm imagining that the light is coming from above, and I'm accordingly darkening in the bottom edge of all the different shapes on the dragon so that it's got a little bit of a three-dimensional quality. The other thing that I want to mention that makes my art lively is that I tend to make it up as I go along. I'm not slavishly devoted to drawing it right, so if I want to add details or change something as I go, I don't have a problem with that. It's much more important when you're creating art to concentrate on how much fun it is and how much joy you get from making art, as opposed to worrying that much about if anyone else besides you is going to like it. The more time you spend on your artwork and the more fun you have doing it, the more fun other people will have looking at it and the more time they will spend looking at it. So the only advice that I have to give you is that if you create what you like, somebody else will like it too, and your art will find its audience. And that's really the best way to keep your creative juices flowing. I feel like a lot of people get so caught up in whether their art is good or whether anyone else will like it that they lose the pleasure of doing it. Now, I recently watched the movie, the Miyazaki movie, Howl's Moving Castle. And I also was looking at the steampunk art of the Russian contemporary artist Vladimir Gvozdariki. I'm probably pronouncing his name wrong. But he does these wonderful mechanical steampunk animals. I'll show you a couple of examples. Anyway, here's another print by him. But mechanical animals and automatons have been around since the 16 or 1700s. They were very popular in the 18th and early 19th century. During Victorian times, clockwork animals and clockwork toys were very popular and sold all over the place. It was around the Victorian time when the steam engine came into popularity. And here I am taking Taster's Choice instant coffee, and I'm putting in some sepia tones and shadows. One of the techniques that I use is I lift the brush slightly while I'm painting so that the color fades off, and so I don't leave a hard edge at the end. I dip my brush in water and continue the brush stroke. That way I get a nice soft shadow that fades upward. I paint the shadow side. I don't outline the entire animal. And I just keep adding water to my brush and diluting it so that the color tends to fade upward. I also paint as if I am painting on a three-dimensional form. So here I'm adding graphite, powdered artist graphite, which is basically powdered pencil shavings. And if you add water to it, it makes a nice deep charcoal gray. And so I'm adding that for my darker values. And then later on, I'm going to add Dr. P.H. Martin's white watercolor liquid paint to get a few highlights and midtones. One thing you'll notice, though, is I'm leaving the white of the paper on the upper areas so that it looks like the light is hitting the animal. If you mess up and paint the entire outline, outlining all the edges, it has the effect of making your animal look flat. Now, there's nothing wrong with that if that's the look you're going for, but because I went to all this effort to make a three-dimensional animal that looked like it was more popping out of the page, I made a very conscious effort not to do that. I left certain parts white, certain parts lighter, I added midtones, and then I added some darker values. In any case, around the time when steam engines, there's my Dr. P.H. Martin's white paint. Anyway, around the time when steam engines were popular and mechanical animals were popular, and mechanical toys were popular, steampunk, the term was coined in the 1980s by a science fiction writer who was writing about an alternate universe where steam was actually more powerful than it truly is, and was able to power all these advanced mechanical machines almost magically. So it was about an imagined alternate universe in which people dressed in old-fashioned Victorian clothing but lived in a world with these very elaborate, almost magical machines. And the fashion extended from science fiction into fashion, into cosplay, into the way some people like to dress up, and also into art. So I would say around the 2010s, 2015, the style was extremely popular, and it may not be quote-unquote in now, but I don't think that should matter. If you find a beautiful piece of artwork and it's in a style that's not really trending right now, it shouldn't stop you from experimenting with that style. I think that quality never goes out of style, and if you find something intriguing or visually or interesting idea-wise, there's absolutely nothing that says you can't explore it and have fun with it. And so I wouldn't worry so much about what's in as about exploring your own ideas and inventing something original. What you don't want to do is sit there and copy another artist's work exactly. You want to come up with your own ideas and play around with them. You don't want to just take a picture and copy it. Sometimes a good way to make sure that you're being original is to take 3 or 4 pictures that inspire you, figure out what the coolest parts of them are, and then create something new that has elements of all 3. That's a good, fun way to become inventive and to create your own artwork. Another way is to take a machine, such as a clock with a lot of gears, and an animal, and try and figure out how that animal might move mechanically. So instead of just taking an outline of an animal and adding a bunch of gears in it and saying, oh, look, it's steampunk, think about how that animal might move and how the different parts might attach to each other and what its movements might look like. That's what I did with the original dragon, where I made the cartoon of it and animated it chasing the man. I made an exploded view with all the different parts, put them together, and imagined how it might move. And that's a way to make sure that you're creating something that is unique and personal and fun.